Hello everybody, you're joining me, Paul Woodford and Graham Eason from the Great Escape Cars workshop. It is a working workshop, it is live, so we might get the odd car driving around and the odd noise, but that's fine. Hopefully you've got noise from us. Graham, I hope you sound check.
Hello, good morning.
I think we're meant to do what you've had for breakfast or something like that, but...
well, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast, but it was a while ago, Paul.
It's a bit like question time, this. I feel a little bit like a Yorkshire Jonathan Dimble. In fact, I think you might be from...
You look a bit like one as well.
Do I?
Yeah.
A few years on him, so yeah.
But I feel that you're going in that direction.
Well, obviously, here at Great Escape Cars, is it the Hunt Industrial Estate? We are in the heart of Redditch, but what else do people from Redditch get quite proud about?
Well, there's the Forge Mill Needle Museum, obviously. You know,
if this were question time, we'd have cutaways of the Forge Mill.
There is the Forge Mill Needle Museum. I need to probably say that twice because of the needle making that was around here, which is the big thing. And then, of course, we used to have the headquarters for British Leyland.
I was hoping he was going to come back to cars because otherwise we were going to have to bring that right back.
Yeah, Grosvenor House, marketing department for British Leyland, and then down the road is Studley Castle, where they used to train their management.
Fantastic. I bet they're big brown windows and mahogany desks.
They have, yeah. They have big brown windows, mahogany desks, and I don't think a lot went on there, to be honest. They were just messing around.
I don't know. We're surrounded by evidence that it perhaps did. You know, you've got the Traveller sat there, we've got minis. And
I think in later years they probably sort of did more messing around than actual work. I think. Yeah.
But obviously this isn't messing around. This is serious because you guys have been asking us some questions, and I've got a live feed here. And it says 1 year result. That is probably Graham. It's Graham! The countdown has started. You can tweet questions as we go along. You can get involved and we'll answer you. We'll chat to you. But use Twitter with the hashtag CarQA because we can't see the screen on the iPad to do it through Periscope. So if you're joining us on Periscope, keep a Twitter feed active and send us your comments and get some interaction going on there. But I'm going to start with a question because that's what this is all about. It's interactive. It's a Q&A session. We are live. And this one just made me laugh. I think it's brilliant. It's from someone called Phil Taylor, who I've heard on Twitter a few times, getting involved. What car would you want if the zombie apocalypse comes? Because there's been a bit of a trend on Twitter with people putting Porsche 911s all loaded up and weaponised. Yeah. What car would you pick?
What would I pick out of my own fleet of cars? Well, I think I'd go for the Saab because, frankly, it's designed to push wildebeest and deer and all that kind of stuff out the way, and it's probably quite good with zombies as well. So I'd go for the Saab. You've got the speed, you've got the turbo rush if you need it to push the thing out of the way, and then of course it's built like a tank, so it's the obvious choice really.
Just on that, if the zombies were in Hull, you couldn't use the Saab because obviously I've had a Saab in Hull and it didn't go that well.
In fairness, if the zombies were in Redditch as well, Paul, they wouldn't be able to. It wouldn't work here either because the other Saab has stopped working.
Two Saabs not working. There is a working Saab.
There is a working Saab, yeah. We could use that. It's not mine, but we could use that, yeah. But we'll have it fixed for the zombies. That's probably a good imperative. Yeah.
Graham would use a Saab. I think for me it would have to be something quick, but it would have to be something tough.
Yeah.
And it would have to be something that the zombies would recognise as quite a scary looking car. So I think I'd go for the Mark II Jag because it's a villain's car, and zombies, they've only recently been zombified, so they would recognise the 60s film villain.
They probably would. I thought you were going to go for the Volvo Estate.
Yeah, but it's my car, and the zombies could be there for a long time, and I've been staring at the dashboard for quite a while. I'd like a change.
Would you rather they got smashed up in my car then? That's what you're saying there.
That's generally how it works. Let's get on to a more serious question. I like this one from CJ, who is at Tales of an Alpha on Twitter. Remember, if you are tweeting, if you're watching this and you've got Twitter open as well as Periscope, we can't see your Periscope chat, but we can see your Twitter chat. Use the hashtag CarQA, and we will get back to you, because I have a live feed here. I feel like Jodie Kidd, you can be my Quentin Wilson.
Thanks.
They'll love
sure
that.
I've done well there.
No, I'm not sure I have actually. I didn't think that one through. CJ asks, I like this question. What determines the car you are going to put out to hire? Is it heritage, icon, nostalgia, etc.?
Sure. Well, to be honest, it started off with cars that I really liked, and I thought here's a good opportunity to get the cars I really like, the dream garage I want, and hire them out. And it turned out that people didn't really want to hire the cars that I like. So what determines it really is what is popular with people who are not just massively into cars, but kind of a bit into cars. So It's the iconic cars like a Mark II Jag, MGB, cars that people really know and know beyond kind of the car world, if you like.
Okay, talk to me about the grey Citroen behind you then, because I'm not sure if you can see it on the feed, but there is a lovely looking Citroen.
This is a beautiful car. I will say, in fairness, it's not out on hire, it's on TV work.
Right.
But yeah, this is a beautiful car. I think it's a 1971 Citroen DS20. We got it in for filming, and it's gorgeous. But it splits opinion in the workshop here. Some people absolutely hate it, and some people love it, and I love it. I love the little bits and pieces in it. You can't see it on here, but it's got these lovely little details which they've really thought about when they designed the car that are more than just function.
Would you say your halo car is the Quattro? What's the one thing you're out there, you're talking about hiring cars? So going back to CJ's question about why you pick cars and why somebody might pick a car to hire.
Sure.
Which one do you go out there with to say, we hire cars and look at this?
That it is actually the Quattro, the Capri now. And a few years ago, people would have gone, why have you got a Quattro? Why have you got a Capri? But those are the cars that people really engage with now. It used to be things like E-Types and Mark II Jags, but it's now, the hirers have got younger, if you like, and the people who want to drive these cars are younger, and it's really the Quattro and the cars of the 80s that people are really into. Yeah.
Okay. I do like that question, CJ. That was a good question, because the motivation behind this, for someone like you, isn't just to make money. You didn't start doing this with a view to make money. You started this. You had a Jensen Interceptor as your first car.
And I set up the business because I wanted to buy a Jensen Interceptor, and I wanted to have a reason to do it, and this was my reason to do it. And to be honest, the cars from there on in, although I've built up the fleet with cars that are not necessarily my first choice of hire car, I've got really passionate about them because I've discovered something in them that I didn't know was there, like MGBs, MGB GTs. They're quite common cars, and you don't think about them as necessarily a car to buy until you realise how great they are and why people love them. So that's why. Yeah.
Okay, I like that. Car Products Tested, who's actually from my neck of the woods. He actually normally drives around in nice new cars, and classic cars are not something he's normally, but we may be doing some bits and pieces soon. He wants to know, what is your favourite car in the fleet and why?
It's got to be the Jensen. I've still got...
For the same reason?
Yeah, for the reason it got me into it. I bought it when it had done 60,000 miles, and at the end of 2006, it's nearly 10 years later, and it's done 120,000 miles. So, in all that time, it's done a huge amount of mileage, it's worked really hard, and yet it's just kept on going. And I think that's a real, testament to some of these old cars. It's 40 odd years old, and it just keeps going. That's what's great about it. And I just love the fact you get in it, you turn the key, and you just waft away. It's just a great car.
It doesn't waft, it's noisy as hell. It's a great car. A Jensen Interceptor, when I was a kid walking around car shows with my dad, was just the car. Because I remember my dad describing it to me when I must have been 10 or 11, and he said, that is a supercar. It doesn't look much like one, but it is a supercar. When it was made, it was like a supercar. That fascinated me, because how can that be a supercar when that Ferrari 308 is what I would consider a supercar? Yeah. And I guess that's what you discover with classic cars, that in their day, like we were talking about, the Quattro cost not much less than a Ferrari 308, had 11 brake horsepower less than a 308 when it was launched in 1918.
And look at it now. Yeah, exactly. That's what you forget. I think people now forget what role these cars played in people's lives back when they were new. Like the Jensen Interceptor, that was real celebrity car. For goodness sake, Cliff Richard had one. How much more starry can it get? And it was a real car to have. It was more of a car to have than an Aston Martin. People used to say that you arrived and you bought an Aston Martin, but you'd really been there for a while if you had a Jensen Interceptor, because it was really the car of people who were quite comfortable with the amount of money they had.
That's brilliant. Cliff's popping in later, by the way. He said he would if he
brilliant.
Spared
That's good.
time.
Good.
If you're just joining us, he could. But if not, you are nominated to do the song.
Thanks.
Or Julian, the workshop manager, could do that. If you're just joining us on Periscope, I'm Paul Woodford. This is Graham Eason. I'm just Paul Woodford from Paul Woodford, but Graham Eason is Graham Eason from Great Escape Cars, the leading UK hire company. You may have seen the noise they've been making on Twitter and around about with the films and the road trips, all of which you can get involved with. And very excitingly, you can get involved with today with £100 off. Okay, while you're watching this feed, hopefully you're having your lunch around now. We're going to keep going to around 1 o'clock, but if you're having your lunch and you think, I quite fancy going on one of those road trips, because you can drive what, up to how many cars?
Five cars.
Five cars
Yeah,
you can drive
5 cars.
on a road trip. I did one recently with a few of the other media boards. We drove out to the Welsh borders. You swap over after an hour or so in each car, and it's just a great way of experiencing classic cars. And how much are those road trips normally?
It's normally 200 quid for a weekday one or 250 for the weekend, and that includes everything. I mean, we probably wheel out about £250,000 worth of cars, so that's the kind of thing that you're playing with on one of those days. You know, this is serious stuff, really.
We've got James in the office, who's one of the apprentices here, and he's ready. It sounds a bit like internet selling, a bit like a TV selling this, but he's ready to take your call if you want £100 off a classic car road trip. This never happens, all right? £100 off a classic car road trip. That is a very cheap and very fun day out.
Yeah.
What's the number they have to call?
They call 01527 893 733 and press 6, and that'll take you straight through to James.
And if you don't get James and you get the lovely Beverly, just ask for James. She knows where he is. And we'd have the number on the screen if this wasn't on Periscope. I did look at the YouTube live streaming thing, but I looked at it and went, "Ooh, YouTube is live streaming. Oh hell, that's complicated," so we didn't do that. Just before we get back onto the questions, can I just bring our little filming assistant in here? Mason, if you just come into the screen here. This is Mason, who's my little lad. He's 8 years old. He's mad on classic cars, aren't you? Yeah? You can go back behind the camera and carry on filming now. He's 8 years old. Don't get on to me about child labour, because it is the Easter holidays, and crucially I'm not paying him, so it's not officially child labour. This is entertainment. And I've told him if it goes really well and this takes off and you guys like this and Graham wants a few more of these doing, I'll buy him a Freddo. So, okay, it's fine, it's above board, Mum's aware, she's got 2 of the little children to look after today as well, so we're all very busy, and Mason is happy to be here filming, aren't you, Mason?
Yeah.
Good to have you along.
And he's very excited to be in here with this workshop, because it is a really impressive place. Some of the hire places I've been to supercar hire places, other classic car hire places. You turn up, there's an office, there's maybe a lock-up behind and there's space for a couple of cars, if that. Sometimes the cars are parked on the road outside. You have all these cars that are on your website, on the premises, don't you?
Yeah, I think that's probably the big thing that I often forget, is that sometimes you can look at hiring a supercar or a classic car and it looks fantastic on the website, but actually the company hiring it out doesn't have that car there, certainly don't have it on the premises. And you know, that's not right to me. You know, that if you're hiring out cars and you're renting them out to people, you need to have the cars on your premises, and crucially, Paul, you need to be maintaining them yourself, because if you don't have a team of people maintaining those cars for you, then you don't know them properly, you don't know what's going to go wrong, all those kind of things.
Which links nicely to a question, again posed by CJ, and you're going to have to be honest with this one. I know you don't mind being honest.
Yeah, ask away.
What's the most unreliable car that A, is on the fleet, or B, has been on the fleet, if you want to be real?
Okay, yeah, there's probably 2 in this category. The most unreliable car that I've ever had on the fleet is a DeLorean. Now that probably is the most frustrating thing for me, because I absolutely love the DeLorean, and I would love to be able to still have a DeLorean on the fleet, but it's just too unreliable.
Is that where you're stuck in the past?
It is, just look at my hairstyle. And the problem with the DeLorean is the design of the car is so poor. So basically you're buying what is effectively a kit car, and stuff just is not engineered and designed properly, so it just kept going wrong. But the worst car I've ever had on hire, and I've had a few, is a metallic green Mark II Jaguar, which we had for a few years. 3.4 Jag. I hate to say it, that it's turned up on another classic car hire company's website, but it just
Don't tell them.
Terrible.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I have to pose it to you though. Of all the cars in the world to break down on, to be stuck at the side of the M1 in DeLorean? That would be pretty cool.
It is cool, yeah. It's the problem with the DeLorean is the wheels literally kept falling off. The front suspension was so poor, and I can remember the worst occasion I had. It was 1 o'clock in the morning, trying to winch a broken down DeLorean with 3 wheels onto a trailer on the hard shoulder of the motorway. It wasn't pleasant, and it wasn't glamorous.
Brilliant. I remember seeing the DeLorean on the motorway once, in the M62. It was a really wet through day, and there was spray everywhere, and I thought, that's a DeLorean. I got so excited. It's probably just someone who'd hired it for the weekend from you guys and was waiting for the wheels to fall off.
Exactly, waiting for the wheels to fall off.
Shattered my illusions, because I quite like DeLoreans, but I think if I had one, I'd have to have all the bits and pieces on, all the trimmings on the film. Then that's probably why by the 3rd film it was flying, not driving.
Exactly. I think with a DeLorean, what you want is a big house with a massive atrium in which you put your DeLorean and just look at it. That's probably the best use of a DeLorean.
Okay, so just to note, if you are the guys that have just started at the new company making DeLoreans again, Graham wouldn't like one to test, even if you're willing to drop it off at his door.
I'm quite happy to test it. I just don't want to keep it, guys. So if you feel like you want me to test it, I'm happy to do that. See if it's better.
Talking of that, we were just talking in the office, and you track the cars. You can see how they're being driven. I daren't ask how I drive some of them, but you were telling me that some people go really fast to begin with, and then you have to send them a text or give them a quick ring to tell them to slow down. You then watch the data calm back down again.
So we because the condition of the cars is really important. So and once they go out
and people's safety
once they go out of the unit, we don't know how they're being treated, and they need to be treated carefully because they're old cars. But yeah, we can see how fast that car's being driven. If it's being driven abusively, we'll text them, and then usually we see straight away that the speed drops down. So it's like Big Brother, like a big, like God up in the sky. They're kind of just telling them to slow it down.
He tells himself that. I have to point out, I haven't had a text yet, and I've had quite a few of these.
It's on its way.
On the way home, in my own car. You haven't fit the tracker while I've just sat here.
Yeah, I've done it now.
For sale, by the way. Big Volvo estate, brilliant. Mitch from Heritage Ford wants to know, what is your favourite classic car? And I think he means ever. Anyway, any car you could have as a personal classic car.
Yeah.
You can't say the Jensen again.
I can't say Jensen. It's not here today because obviously being an Alfa Romeo, it wouldn't start this morning. But it's an Alfa Romeo Alfa Sud. So I've got it's not on hire. I've got a 1984 Alfa Sud TI. That's my absolute pride and joy. It's mint, very low mileage. Absolutely love it.
Beautiful. It's got that real 80s black plastic trim everywhere. Big spats on the wheel arch and the bumper on the back. And if you look on the website, greatescarecars.co.uk, it does feature on the website, even though you at the moment can't hire it. But
no. I did hire. I bought it to hire it out, and then I couldn't bear anybody else driving it because that just felt it was like my little baby. So,
see, for me, that is why I wouldn't work doing what you do, because I would get the cars and then not want anyone else to drive. And in fact, if you follow me on Twitter, you may have seen me post a photo the other day of my wife driving my 20-year-old Volvo estate. Not such a classy, precious car, but for me it was a big thing letting her drive the car. She couldn't really understand that. She didn't really want to drive it anyway, but I persuaded her to have a go in it, and I took a picture of her driving it, and she just didn't get that. But that's fine.
Yeah, but that's everybody each to their own, I suppose.
But if I'm like that with a 20-year-old Volvo estate, which just never goes wrong, can you imagine what it'd be like with a DeLorean with 3 wheels in there? I'd probably follow them out there. The deal would be that I come with you.
Yeah.
25% off, and you get me in the car with you.
It might change now because we've literally just the Jensen we talked about. We've just restored it, so it's gone through those sort of 10 years of kind of deterioration, with hiring, not in terms of knocking it around the paintwork, and it's just been restored. We spent about 300 hours on it, so I'm probably a little bit precious about that now.
And it did drive out just as I arrived. It looks glorious.
It looks amazing. I have to admit, it looks amazing. It's like it's just been rejuvenated. Yeah.
It really has got new life, and you can drive it. But the nice tip actually that I found when I came to the workshop here, if you work on cars, you probably already know this, but I didn't. And I've done a lot of homemade spray jobs in the past, and this is probably why they haven't gone that well. The guys were using fairy liquid to wipe down panels in between when they were doing the wet and dry. You're supposed to wet and dry after the top coat before you lacquer it. Well, they were doing fairy liquid in between coats, and I asked why. I asked if they'd just run out of auto blim or something. Plug, auto blim, if you're watching, we'd like to sponsor the next one. And apparently that's what we do, because it takes the scratches out when they're doing the wet and dry in between. When you get the flatting marks underneath the lacquer, remove that by using fairy liquid. Brought to you by Jensen Interceptor, which I happened to see being prepared last time.
It has to be fairy liquid. You can't use Pers or anything like that. It's got to be that branded one.
Really? Other brands are available.
Liquid cleaners are available.
It's fine, this isn't the BBC. Only buy Fairy Liquid. Fairy, we'd like you to sponsor the next one. Thank you very much. My favourite classic car, in case Mitch also wants to know from me, and actually he'll like this being Heritage Ford, I have to say would be a Mark I Escort Mexico.
Nice.
It goes back to my childhood. I got into cars and into rallying because my parents were into rallying, and they had a diet of Escorts and Mark I Cortinas and things like that. So it'd be between the Mark I Escort Mexico, because, well, special moments were had in one of those for me as a kid, and also a Mark II Lotus Cortina. It has to be the Mark II. I love the Mark I, I'm aware of how valuable it is, but the Mark II, my first rally car was a Mark II Cortina GT.
Those are brilliant choices.
So I'm a Ford man. I like all the cars we have around here. I didn't get on too well with the Fiat. It was a bit small for me, but it was an experience, and I guess that's what it's all about.
I think those two Fords you've mentioned are fantastic, but it's really frustrating to me because I'd like to have those on the fleet, but the value of them, it's just rocketed. Classic Fords, it's like classic Jags. just phenomenal amount of money. No, those are really good.
Well, look at the Capri.
Yeah, exactly.
55 grand, 54 grand. And Great Escape Cars, and myself actually, the film I did with the Capri was featured in the Daily Mail.
Yeah.
Thank you to Simon Lambert for running with that one. But £55,000 for a 280 Brooklands Capri, a car which 10 years ago you could have picked up for £3.5 grand.
You could, nobody wanted them. I
mean, this did have delivery mileage, it was absolutely stunning.
But there was one with about 10,000 miles that went for 38 grand recently as well. It's just phenomenal. But this is what happens with cars. Capris, a few years ago, you could buy 2.8 for £1,000. You can't find one under 5 now. That's just what happens.
You struggle under 5, I think.
But cars just hit that point when everybody wants them, and you've got to get in just before that point.
Hopefully, Coyers are watching this. I noticed they retweeted something recently where a standard Capri 1.6L had sold for something like £8.5 grand, something like that. And it was immaculate, but there's not much to love in Capri terms.
There's not a lot of love in a 1.6L, is there? No,
there's not a lot of anything. But it's still a cool car, but not £8.5 grand.
No, some people like that originality, that kind of just everything as it was and as it, the most basic level. Some people like that.
Another question in a minute from our Twitter army. Not much coming through. I've got loads of notifications here which I didn't click on because I've got the feed up for the hashtag CarQA. So if you are tweeting, if you're just joining us, welcome to the live feed. I hope you're enjoying your lunch hour. We'll keep going till about 1 o'clock. Myself, Paul Woodford, and Graham Eason from Great Escape Cars. I've come down here for the day with my 8-year-old because it's the Easter holidays and because actually I'm on paternity leave and I'm letting Mummy have a bit of time to herself today with the little ones. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here to talk to you about classic cars. We're doing a live feed because we thought, well, it might entertain you, and even if it's like superiorly boring, at least it's better than staring at a spreadsheet. It's so boring. Graham's off on his phone.
I'm seeing if I can get some of these.
But we've got another question coming up. Yeah. But before that, we just mentioned a little earlier that if you want to go on a Great Escape Cars road trip, this is 5 cars ranging from the Quattro, Ashes to Ashes Quattro, you need to drive that car, to a Mark II Jag, to a Morris Minor convertible, to a Mini. You can drive these cars through fantastic roads through the Cotswolds, out towards the Welsh borders, right through past the roads near Clernut, past Newtown, if you know those roads. Absolutely fantastic roads. I stayed in a little guest house in Clernut recently, which was absolutely lovely. Such a nice part of the world. So if you do want to go on one of these road trips, you can have £100 off if you call James here at Great Escape Cars before the end of this live broadcast. You've got until about 1 o'clock to call James if you want £100 off a Great Escape Cars road trip. It's a bit like one of those internet selling channels, but I'm not going to try and sell you a knife that will cut through a boot or a squeegee that will wash a car without any water. Don't ever use those. We're going to sell you a classic car road trip for £100 off, which makes it, in grand total, £99 for a fantastic day out, a chance to drive 5 stonking classic cars.
Yeah, and we give you breakfast, lunch, all the fuels included. It actually costs you more to drive it in your own car than what we provide, than it will cost you.
£100 off, and that is limited to this live broadcast. Give Great Escape Cars a call now. I think we're limited to 3, we said.
Yeah.
So first 3 people to call the office and speak to James on the number
01527 893 733. And if you press 6, it'll take you straight through to James.
He's saying this like he's done it before. We would put the number
like
on
a ticker tape along the bottom.
Yeah, I wish it was, but unfortunately Periscope doesn't allow such things yet. Periscope, if you're watching, we could quite do with a live bit of functionality where you can feed content in and ticker tape numbers at the bottom of the screen. That'd because I don't know if I can stomach him singing it.
Maybe we could have Mason running across with the number on the bottom.
Yes, or Julian in his tutu, our workshop manager, who did say he wanted to be a part of this live broadcast. He's disappeared actually, which is strange. There was an MGA starting up a few minutes ago, just before we were due to start, so that might happen again now. He's heard us name checking it, just so he pretends that he's busy. Going back to questions that we've had on Twitter though, remember if you want to get involved, hashtag CarQA. We had a question that follows on nicely from what we were talking about with the Fords going up in value and cars that you wouldn't have expected to be valuable as classic cars, now really worthwhile investments. We got asked again by CJ. This is like the CJ show. I feel like we should have CJ sat with us. Should print out a picture of him. He's actually anonymous. I've never seen a picture of him. He does tweet a lot.
Yeah, I've seen a picture of him. I think he's tweeted it, but we could print it out and put it here if he's happy with that.
I think we should. I don't think he has any Wi-Fi. We'll be watching this when we put it on broadcast on the YouTube later. But
we'll try and do that.
I think he looks like an Alpha GTV. Actually,
he's got an Alpha GTV.
That's what he looks like.
That's
what his profile picture is.
Is he an Alpha G? You think he looks like an Alpha GTV?
I think he is an Alpha
Possibly.
GTV.
Yeah.
If you're looking for the office is just along there.
This is how, this is what it's like. Yeah?
This is live broadcast.
This is live broadcast.
Did you need to speak to that man?
I don't know. Did people walk in on Jeremy Clark's face? Is that how that works?
I think they do, and they're called Richard Hammond and James May, and he gave them a job, so maybe we missed the trick with that man then. But CJ wants to know,
we should have had a third person,
probably, we've got one behind the camera, we've got one in the office, taking your calls,
Yeah.
£100 off a classic car road trip. And by the way, we've got other things to give away during this live broadcast. We'll give you a £25 off voucher for any hire against any of the cars you see on the website, the Great Escape cars, or for a road trip, I believe.
Road trip,
One of my business car things, which actually people like when I send them, they're quite cool. I've got a Subaru, I've got a Ford Focus ST, and I've got a Porsche 911 as well. Not much classic going on there. And completing the prize pack.
It's almost, you'd almost
Model
want,
Y.
you could look
Eason
like
himself.
this. You could almost want this rather than the voucher.
You're not selling it now. You're not selling it now. So we've got a prize pack that we'll give away for some of the best questions, which we'll tweet after the live broadcast. But remember, if you want £100 off, and thank you to Cars Products Tested, who's just tweeted to get that message out there, £100 off today during this live broadcast. If you ring
01527 893 733 and press 6, and you go straight through to James, who will take your order.
And we've got a number of, you've got a number of classic car road trips coming up that you can book onto.
Yeah, we've got 30 road trips. Some of them are sold out already, but we've got a few places left on some of them as well, which is partly why we're doing we can do a discount. We just want to get them full, we want people to enjoy them, and that's it. So we have 5 cars, 10 people, off we go. And that's basically how those trips work. There's a very few places left. The early ones in the year are sold out, but we've got about 10 towards the end of the year that have got a few places left.
Really do this because it's fantastic. I'm speaking from experience, I've done this myself. You get paired up with someone who is equally into classic cars like you are, or if you're not really into classic cars, you just fancy doing it for an experience, or you want to buy it for the mother-in-law to get her out for the day. Do you know what? They'll love it, believe me. There's a lovely cafe you stop at en route if you're going to go to the same one, and they've got Wi-Fi which doesn't work, so you're completely in the wilderness, it cuts off from the rest of the world, so no risk of the office contacting you. Really worthwhile, and £100 off if you call James today. If you missed the number, it's on the Great Escape Cars website.
Well, we started off doing it because I thought people just want to drive different cars for an hour or so, experience the difference, and that's what you get.
It is about experience, and the films that I make as well, if you've seen my films, if you go to my Twitter page or at carfilms or carfilms.co.uk, they're all about experience. It's not a car review. If you want a car review, you go onto the internet and you search for a car review, but if you want to know what cars you really like to drive, and you want to know how cars make you feel and the story behind them, that's what I'm all about, and that's what these road trips are all about, which is why I'm here talking about them, okay? I'm not getting paid to be here today. I'm here because I want to be talking to you about classic cars, because I think that's a worthwhile thing to do on a lunch hour. So if you are having your lunch, I hope you're enjoying this. If you want us to go off in a different direction, or you want us to answer a different question, tweet us. Use the hashtag @CarQA. All right, you'll see it on Twitter. Or if you just tweet us, I'm sure James will pick it up in the office and come through and give us the question. But going back to what we were talking about cars coming up in value and cars that you didn't think were classics, becoming classics. And we're surrounded by some of those cars actually in here today. Again from CJ, will the fleet evolve as modern classics come on stream? As people start to accept that a Triumph Acclaim, actually that's already been accepted in many circles, but if people accept that a Nissan Bluebird is a classic car, will you have one? A Nissan Micra, an old
Nissan Micra. I'm going to say no to the Nissan Micra. I don't know what's pushing me there, but I'm going to say no to the Nissan Micra, Paul.
Sorry, Nissan Micra
I'm
lovers.
not sure, really. We will evolve the fleet, but I'm not sure where that's going to go, because basically the classic cars that people want to hire tend to be British classic cars. That's really what people have got into. And obviously the British motor industry kind of post-80s sort of wasn't there, so you're kind of scrabbling around a bit to find out what would be classic. Plus, when you get into the 90s, classic cars changed a lot with ECUs and stuff like that. So they become much more complicated and much harder, much less durable, because stuff goes wrong with them. So I'm not sure. We will evolve it, but I'm not even sure at this stage what those cars will be. I can see the 80s ones. I'm not sure I can see the
80s is massive. But then we were talking about Sierra Cosworths earlier, which of course stretched well into the 90s, and those things were runabouts really with an awesome but unreliable engine under the bonnet. Awesome engine.
Yeah.
And there were rally cars made for the road, and yet you can pick them up still really relatively cheap if you get an average condition SAF Cosworth. But it's not a very good proposition from a hire point of view. What you're saying?
It wouldn't be. It would hire out, but it wouldn't last very long because it'll get thrashed to within an inch of its life. So that's what you have to bear in mind when you choose the cars. Because I might want a Sierra Cosworth on there, but you know it's going to get thrashed. Because the only way you want to drive a Sierra Cosworth is fast.
What about cars like a Porsche 924, Porsche 944 cars, which you can get the low models which aren't quite that thrashable? You know, you've got the 2 litre naturally aspirated.
I think the 94 and the 944, a 944 would probably work quite good on a hire if it was convertible. A 924 I'm not so sure about. But the problem with Porsches, everybody just wants to hire a 911. So you have to be really, they are fantastic cars, but it doesn't mean that they have a wide appeal, if you see what I mean.
Speaking from experience, I owned a 924 recently, one of the naturally aspirated ones, and they are so underappreciated for what they are. Such a cool car, and just bulletproof. Absolutely bulletproof, and they rev like a good, and they've got that Porsche feel to them, if that makes sense. And people in the 924 owners club will say that does make sense as long as you're talking about the turbo or the S. But no, I had a naturally aspirated one, which was a cheap way into classic car ownership recently for me when I had kids, and I could actually fit the kids in the back. We got some seatbelts fitted. So there are a lot of classic cars coming on stream. You might not see here at Great Escape Cars, but Graham would advocate going out there and trying them.
Definitely. There's definitely. I mean, I would something like a 924. I mean, there's a chap that we a customer of ours called William Patterson, who's on Twitter, and he bought a 924. I think he paid about £1,000. We helped him sort of, get it roadworthy. So, there's not much of investment in there, but the enjoyment that you get out of that car is fantastic. So, while it might not necessarily be a straightforward hire car, there are a load of cars out there that are silly money at the moment that are definitely worth getting into if you want to buy a weekend run around without paying silly money. Because people, like you say, people with Porsches want the 911 and they overlook those other cars, which in some ways are much better to live with day to day.
Moving on from that then, when does a car become classic? Not classic as in you would hire it out to people as a perceived classic, but when can you say modern classic? Because I'm probably guilty of saying modern classic for cars which some people go, Alpha GTV for example.
Yeah.
I think that's a modern classic.
It is a modern classic. Whatever people do get hung up about it. I mean, basically 25 years tends to be the rule. But I'd say something like an early 916 GTV, like the 3 litre that you've driven. That to me is already a classic car. That is, it's about some of the oldest ones are coming up to 20 years old.
And you barely see them on the road.
Exactly. That to me is a classic car because it's from a slightly different era, and it's not a car that you can use it every day, but it's more of a put it in the garage, and enjoy it week car really. So and use it on weekends.
And is it just age? Because I saw a very, very basic and in very good condition Austin Maestro the other day in the petrol station, and I got disproportionately excited about seeing a car in a petrol station because it was in such good condition. And my wife just looked at me and said, "It's a Maestro."
Yeah,
I was quite glad she knew what it was actually. But is that classic?
I think that's
technically it is.
I think it's a classic. Absolutely. I think there's loads of cars out there that we saw every day if you grew up
Austin
in the
1100.
80s. Exactly.
Rubbish 1098cc engine, but it's a classic.
Yeah, and it's a classic. And the great thing about them is that Maestro is probably rarer than a 911. Because there's just so few around there. There might be 9 left on the road. I don't know, but there's certainly not 9,000. So it's a really rare car, and I bet when that guy takes that car to a show, people crowd around it because it's so unusual.
It is all about, if you look at the views on my films, the conversation I get into the garages, it's all about people that have experienced those cars before. If you turn up, and I've done it, I turned up in a car park when I was filming with a guy called John Curtis, who I hope you're watching, JC. We had a brand new McLaren MP4 12C when they were new, and a Jaguar XK RS. Nobody came to talk to us. We went to a local supermarket, a bit of a challenge going on there, and we tried to fill these cars with as much stuff as we could. Nobody came to talk to us because they were all like,
yeah.
But I turn up in a petrol station with a Morris Minor convertible or a Ford Capri 280 Brooklands, and by the way, you turn up in a petrol station quite a few times when you drive in one of those, and people just want to talk to you. I couldn't get anywhere near that car, the Fiat 500, and I was filming that. The Quattro was even worse. I had people coming up saying, "Can I take a picture of your car, please, mate?" When I was clearly in the middle of doing a link, and it was like, okay. In fact, I could do an outtakes video on the Quattro alone just because people wanted to talk to me about it.
That happens to us all the time. I took the Jensen down, picked it up from MOT. It's that freshly restored, picked it up, took it to the petrol station, which it needs fairly regularly. You know, we might as well have one out here. And the people in the petrol station, literally, what is it? You know, when was it built? That looks amazing. You know, it's fantastic. That it really makes people's day when you see a car like that. So yeah, it's lovely. Yeah, really nice.
I did contact Coys briefly just before we did this Q&A session, and they probably haven't had a chance to get back to me. I'm just looking to see if they have. But Coys are obviously dealing with high-end cars. I was there at the Autosport when they were selling everything from an X-Works, Escort Cosworth, right through to some of the Top Gear star cars.
Yeah.
And the classic car investment world is huge. People now are buying classic cars as investments rather than as something they're passionate about. That's fair to say.
Well, there's a thing called passion investing, which is basically where you invest in something like the arts or something like that you are kind of emotionally engaged with. And I think that classic cars apparently fall into that category. But I don't think the classic car investment is just about passion. It's about a practical, pragmatic decision, because some of these cars, like the Mexico, the Escort, they're better investments than some, jewels or artwork. They're going up in value phenomenally quickly. They're real cast iron investments.
Is there a danger there though? I was in a warehouse in near Reading recently, and it's a warehouse full of cars which are basically bonded cars. These cars are owned by multiple people, part of pension pots. Some of them haven't turned a wheel in 20 years, and the tyres are rotting, and the pieces of paper are worth more than the cars in some cases.
Yeah, that's sad to me, because they're not investing in the car because the car is deteriorating. But also, I think if you're going to invest in a car, it should be about passion investing. It is a practical, pragmatic decision, but don't do it unless you like cars, because you've got something there that you can use and enjoy. And I think that's what it's about. And if you bought that car and you put it into that storage unit in Reading, you've stopped someone else driving it.
For me, two dangers: and the fact we won't see them, but secondly, the fact that the quality of classic cars across the level will go down if people are buying them just as investments. Especially older, cheaper classics, which people think are a little bit throwaway money. Stick them in the garage and then sell them in a few years' time for a bit more money. All of a sudden, we inherit, people who want classic cars inherit problems because people have just left cars to gain a bit of money for a couple of years.
But I can never quite understand the classic car investment, because you have something like a DB6, which they didn't make very many. And it looks a great car, and it's got that bit of James Bond association to it. But it's gone up in value now, sort of £250,000, £500,000 for a decent DB6. And then a Jensen Interceptor, which is the same period of car, and I think is a better car, better looking car, better engineered car, a much better car to drive. You're paying 10% of the value of the Aston, just because someone has decided that Aston Martins are the ones to go for. So it's
who decided that? Who decided that?
James Bond, I think, decided.
James Bond decided that. No, we'll blame him and not the producers. People are sat there hopefully watching this while they're on their lunch hour. I wish we could see the screen and see how many. But hello to you if you're watching this. If you're just joining us, I'm Paul Woodford, this is Graham Eason, and we are giving you a live classic car Q&A here at Great Escape Cars. We're talking about anything and everything you want to talk about with regards to classic cars. We've got some questions all ready to get through, and we've got another on the screen from Cars Products Tested, which we will get to in just a moment. But we're also giving away quite an exciting prize, because you could drive 5 classic cars on stunning roads across the Cotswolds towards the Welsh borders, up past Clern and around there, and you can drive them for £99. That's all of them, including breakfast, lunch, all fuel. The route's provided for you. It's a really fun day out, and there is £100 off one of those road trips, which are selling out. They don't need to do this. If you call during this broadcast and book one of these trips, there are a number of trips coming up over the rest of the year. The early ones are sold out. They've still got a few left.
We have.
That number again, Graham?
Here we go, 01527 893 733, and press 6.
And then you'll speak to James, and he's waiting to take your call. First 3, and I bet we get more than that, but first 3 to call get £100 off, and they can book it there and then. It's done, £100 off, £99 it'll cost you, rather than £199. So drive 5 classic cars on stunning roads, because they happen to be based here in Reading, which is right on the edge of some monumentally good roads. I've experienced a road trip myself, and it is worth doing, particularly at that money. So do it, and hopefully James will come out and tell us when somebody's done it, and we can sort of get a fanfare and we can clap our hands and
wave.
And wave and whoop and holler, because that's a bargain. So Cars Products Tested, who is at Car Products Test on Twitter, does a lot of good car reviews, really comprehensive car reviews actually of more modern things. So if you want to know what the latest Jaguar F-Pace is like, or the new XJ, or you want to know what the latest BMW is like, this is your man. Check him out on Twitter. He wants to know if we could have any classic car, money no object, this is your blue sky thinking moment going on here. If you could have any classic car, money no object, what would you have?
I'd have a Ferrari 288 GTO.
Oh, I'm close. Yeah. I was going to say F40.
Oh,
that was my pin-up car. But
it's the GTO. It's just the look of it. It's just a stunning car. Just a stunning car.
But,
it's never going to happen, but they are amazing. Yeah.
It might. You're not going to put it on the higher thing, though. It'd be like your Alpha Sud.
It won't be higher.
You might actually put the Alpha Sud back on higher if you get a 288 GTO.
I tell you what, if I can get a 288 GTO then I will put the Alpha Sud back on higher. So if somebody wants to gift me one, let me just drive one. I'll put it back on higher.
Well, my F40 obsession goes back to when I had a picture of one on my wall as a kid, and although I accept that the chances of me owning an F40, even driving one properly, are fairly rare and remote, they're probably more chance of me doing that than getting the other pin up on my wall, which was Emma Bunton, Baby Spice. Right. Which showing my age, but Baby Spice was next to the F40 on the wall. So Emma Bunton, if you're watching this on Periscope, then
she probably is.
Yeah,
I would think probably. Yeah,
I don't want to own her though.
From an F40.
Maybe just a dinner date, and we'll do the experience that way.
Yeah.
We're moving way off track there. So,
I don't know where to go with that, Paul.
No, I don't.
But Emma, come on.
But the absolutely money no object thing is something I get asked all the time as a petrol. People say to me, "What would you drive?" And it's actually a really difficult question, because although you can put the 288 GT on because it's the sort of cream of the crop. For me, there's the 917 Le Mans Porsche. That's a money no object car for me.
Yeah. That is a lovely car.
Realistic is the Mark 1 Escort.
Yeah.
What about modern cars?
Modern cars.
Do you own a modern car? One of the questions that we got set was, what does the MD of Great Escape Cars drive? So what do you drive on the road?
It's nothing exciting. Well, it is exciting if you're into it. I am a subscriber to a thing called Bangonomics. So I live very near to work, so I don't need to rely on a car. So I like to buy a cheap car and then run it into the ground. So far, in the last few years, I've worked through a Saab 95 V6 turbo, which was a fantastic car. Bought it for 500 quid, did 40,000 miles.
That's a cheap 40,000.
That was a cheap 40,000 miles. Then I had a beautiful Alfa 166 V6. That's probably the nicest car I've driven. And then at the moment I've got a 156 V6. So
that's an estate as well, isn't it?
Estate, yeah, because you've got a dog, so you've got to have an estate. So I'm just tootling around in that at the moment. But yeah.
He says it apologetically, but actually I think that's cool. Driving a V6 Alfa is a great car.
It's a lovely car. It's a lovely car. It's the Alfa V6 engine is I think one of the best engines inside of a Ferrari.
And it's such a myth, the Alfa thing. Apart from the Alfa Sud, which was from the era of a lot of cars being unreliable, the Alfa thing is a myth, because I had a 159. Mine was a 1.9 diesel, until recently, and I did something like 50,000 miles in 1.5 years in that car, and it just didn't let me down.
They just keep going. I mean, they've got this reputation for being, unreliable, but it's not true. It's how you maintain the car. A car will be as unreliable as the way it's maintained.
My theory is that somebody who quite likes cheap Alfa Romeos came up with that.
I think
because they kept Alfa Romeos cheap. Because actually, if you look for a 156 sport wagon V6, they are so cheap.
They are peanuts.
You got yours in near me in Harrogate, didn't you?
It was £700. So
£700 for a V6 estate car that looks the dog's swollen bits but sounds amazing.
But to me, I could spend more. I just love the fact that you drive around a £700 car that does everything you need it to do, and if something major goes wrong, that's the way it is.
See, I'm doing that at the moment with an old Volvo 850, which I love. It's a 2.5 5-cylinder. Everyone says it's a T5 because it's got the GLC kit. I'm like, no, it's the 5. But I do a lot of miles, and I've got a young family, so I have actually bitten the bullet, and I'm getting a Ford Focus ST estate, which I'm quite excited about, but my classic car credentials lower somewhat. So I might just have to find a big barn to stick the 850 in for a while, one that used to house a Harrier jump jet or something, because it's really big.
It is a big car.
But it's a great car, and I fully subscribe to the Bangonomics thing, although I think you could probably call it, Shed of the Week, along the line of piston heads.
I would like an RS6 of that. That's probably where I'm going. That's where I'm going. If I can justify the maintenance issues with it, that's where I'm going.
Yeah, well, you've got a nice workshop.
I've got the excuse, haven't I?
Yeah, although I guess when you own a workshop like this, very few of your own jobs get done.
That's exactly the problem. Yeah, that's exactly the problem. So I've got that, hence the Saab, and also the exhaust fell off the V6 Alpha, you know, the GTV. So that's yeah. But you've got to push that aside when you've got a lot of customer cars in. So.
And I was sat in the office earlier and they had some parts to order for the Quattro to keep that running nicely. They had some parts to order for an XJS for an exhaust, and it's actually quite a logistical task, not just delivering cars to people, not just the hire side, but keeping the cars running. I heard Simon, the logistics manager, running in and out, the operations manager, running in and out saying, well, I've ordered this new one. Did you ring that one or did you ring that one? Who did you ring for that part? Because there isn't a Euro car parts for classic cars. Right. But if somebody wants to start one, that would be really nice because it would make Graham's job easier.
Be your first customer if you want to start out a reliable, one-size-fits-all place for classic car parts would be brilliant.
Well, we are, if you're just joining us and you've got about 10 minutes left of this live stream before you go back to him on Twitter, he's at GEC James, see what we did there, and he's got a blog there, and it's really classic cars through a young person's eyes. I've got an 8-year-old who's helping out behind the camera just now called Mason, who loves these cars, can't wait to get behind the wheel. James has had a go at some of them, and they are the future of classic cars. So if you've got any young people in your household, even if they're not old enough to drive yet, they can bring a passenger on the great car.
Yeah, we do a lads and dads thing, so you get, you know, like a sort of Father's Day thing, so quite often it's just a great day out. You know, you could come along with Mason, passenger seat, and he just navigates it. It's
done. Done. See you there.
But that's what we do. Have a lot of people do that. So it's just that for me, it's really lovely to see that because you kind of it's better than going to a football match. You're actually engaging and you're actually kind of spending some real quality time with your children. That's just great. It's great. It's lovely to see it. They start off a little bit nervous. By the end of the day, sort of 8 hours later, everybody's sort of just big smiles. Yeah.
James, if you can reserve me one of those £100 vouchers, that would be good. Thank you. Done. Just one more question we have from CJ was, what's your most popular car on the fleet? We talked about your most favourite, your personal thoughts on it, but what do people ring up and want to hire?
It goes through 1 year it's one car, another year it's another car. At the moment, it is the Cobra. So we've got a Cobra replica because you can't really afford to have an original Cobra and you wouldn't want to hire it out.
You'd have that in the same box as the Alpha.
I'd have that in the same box, yeah, with the 288 GTO as well.
Nice box. Big box.
Yeah. I might have to sell the house for that. And the dog. And the dog. No, I can't.
How much is the mother-in-law worth?
That's a good question.
Dangerous territory. Back on track.
It's a good question, but one I'll consider. It would be the Cobra. So we've gone through a couple of Cobras because the kit cars tend to be a bit unreliable.
Yeah.
But this one is a really nice 5.7 V8 Cobra, and people just love that. It's just one of those.
Stunning.
Yeah, it is a lovely.
It doesn't drive like a kit car, surprisingly, and I don't have to say that. It feels planted.
Yeah.
It feels like it's really designed to be driven. Whereas a lot of kit cars, if you get in them, they feel like they're designed to look good. Take the example on Top Gear about Stratos they drove, the kit car.
Yeah.
I know it hadn't been set up properly for the tech, but they're not designed to be driven in some cases.
They look good, don't they? But they don't necessarily drive anywhere near that. And I think this is about as good as you could get out of a kit. It drives like a nice sports car. Yeah. So that is really popular. And it sort of in the summer that car comes in and out like it's like a yo-yo. It's amazing. And then the E-types are always popular, but it's probably I think people are moving away from E-types to things like the Cobra and things like the Quattro and the Capri. So a few years ago, nobody wanted the Quattro and Capri, and I thought I've jumped the gun here. And now they're massively popular. I mean, they literally just go in and out all the time.
I bet you wish you'd bought them yourself when they were not so popular.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
There are cars that you either buy and sell or don't buy and wish you had.
Yeah.
You just look back now and you look at the prices. I mean, I wish we had someone from Coys actually to give us a bit of input here. I invited them along, but it's probably short notice. Maybe we'll do that at a later date and do some Coys.
Nice
but what would be your next big tip for the next big rise, or something that's really cheap now but is shooting up? Because I've got one in mind.
My mind's gone blank. I think there's still movement in the 80s cars. So if you're looking at kind of late 80s cars, then I would say those are the ones to look at. So some of them are starting to go, like the Peugeot 205 GTI. They start to go, and the Escort XR3 I've started to go. There's a lot more left in those. An RS Turbo Escort is probably a good place to put your money.
They're still expensive to buy now, aren't they?
Yeah, they're just starting to go.
For me, it's the rubber bumper MGs.
Oh, really? Right.
A few years ago, you could pick up an immaculate one. And I know that the Midget's got the 15 Triumph engine, it's not that great. At least the MGB's got the right engine. But, if you wanted them to look period, you had to drop them and do lots of work, and people don't like the rubber bumpers. I actually love the rubber bumpers, again, going back to a car that my dad had when I was a kid, but you could pick up an immaculate one for $3 grand, $2.5 grand from legit 1,500. Now, you're talking 5.5, six in some cases.
Right, they have gone up in value, and I think somebody was talking about that the other day on our Cars and Classic, Cars and Coffee Day, and they were saying that they've got a rubber bumper, and nowadays people look at them and they don't really notice that much difference with them because people have got used to it. People didn't know the rubber bumper when it came out, because when it came out, people hated them, and now people haven't got that emotional connection with them, so they just look at it and think, oh, it looks good, and I think it does look good.
And the Americans were in loads of cars with funny bumpers, so why do we single out the MGs? Look at the Alpha Spider, they stuck big bumpers on it.
But on the subject of the MG, a car I would buy, which is completely undervalued, is a Jensen Healy. The Jensen Healy convertible.
Yeah.
It's a better car than an MGB. You get a lot more for your money. It might not be going up in value, but that's a really nice car.
They start high. Are you talking 7, 8 for a decent one?
You can get them for five. Yeah, £5 grand to buy you a nice, and the equivalent Jensen Healy for that will be much better than an MGB. And an MGB is a great car, but if you want something a little bit different, Jensen Healy is great.
Okay, from your experience then, you've owned lots of classic cars, you've driven and run lots of classic cars, you've seen the bills and the parts all just flying in and out of the workshop. Somebody watching, having their lunch, who doesn't yet own a classic car, quite fancies owning a classic car, perhaps they're a bit younger and not really into the classic car scene, don't have many tools, don't have many oily bits on their fingers. What car would you suggest as a starter classic, given value, ease of maintenance and fun factor?
You want an 80s, a mid to late 80s classic, so depends what you want it for, but I would say a car that does a lot of things for you, and it's very usable as an XJS V12, because it depends what you want. It drives really nice. It is quite a sporty drive.
Seriously underrated as well.
Yeah, it's completely underrated. Very sporty. It's pretty reliable. Forget about all this stuff about V12 engines. They're reliable. That's the car I'd go for. If it wasn't that, if you want something a little bit more kind of engaging, 205 GTI or a Mark II Golf GTI, those would be great cars. Anything from that sort of late 80s period, that sort of car, you love.
See, I'm a huge fan of 80s cars. XR2s, Golf GTIs, absolutely. I mean, the Quattro is probably one of the best cars I've ever driven. Just superb, so iconic. But I think starter classic, if I'm giving somebody a bit of advice, and in fact I did this earlier in the week, I'm going to go back to it, Porsche 924. Get the naturally aspirated one because it is a bargain buy. You can buy them immaculate ones for $3 grand less. And because at the moment they're undervalued. But you wait. The S has already started going up. The turbo, you're already talking 11, 12 grand, and with good reason, because they are incredible classic sports cars. The 924, naturally aspirated, it's called the NA. Look it up on eBay. There are always a good handful of decent examples out there. So cheap, fun, fit in your garage, unlike an XJS. Graham's got a big garage, he can make recommendations like that. The 924 is as small as a Vauxhall Corsa. I think I did my maths when I bought one. Fit it in my little single garage on a new housing estate. So for me, it'd be the 924. But if you want any advice on buying, running, or anything else, classic cars, either come down to one of the coffee and cars events that you guys run, because it is just informal, relaxed. All the cars are out there. In fact, Graham might even take you out in one as a bit of a taster on a day.
Next one's on May the 15th, down here.
May the 15th, down here in Redditch. Just check out all the details on the website. Or just give these guys an email or a call, or get in touch with me. But we love talking about classic cars. So if you give us an excuse to talk about them, and when my wife says to me, "You're talking about cars again," if you've called me or tweeted me or messaged me and said, "Can you tell me about this car?" I've got an excuse to talk about classic cars. And with that in mind, I think it's probably time to let you get back and do some work. I suggest that we keep. James hasn't come to do some. We've sold any of his £100 off vouchers yet, but if you want to get involved with the greatest escape cars road trip, and you want to do that with £100 off, you can do that for the next
2 hours.
2 hours. Okay, 3 o'clock, and we close that off. £99 to drive 5 classic cars around fantastic roads with breakfast, lunch, fuel, and everything else you need for the day, provided you just have to get yourself here. Give Great Escape Cars a call right now, ask for James, and get yourself booked on, and then tweet us when you've done it. We will see you on Twitter, we'll see you when we're making the films. Graham will hopefully see you down here when you're at the Cars and Coffee event, or if you're hiring cars, or if you go to one of the events. And I'll see you around. Thanks for watching this. I hope it was enjoyable, not too boring, a little less boring than the spreadsheet you're going back to now anyway. And hopefully if you did like it, give us some feedback. I'm sure Graham likes his polls, he'll probably do one for you. And then we can maybe do this again sometime. We can maybe take it around the country. If you've got a classic car dealership, or you've got a classic car tucked up in a garage, why not take this on tour? I'll take a graphic up and put the iPad out, and we'll do it near you.
Excellent. That sounds really good. Brilliant.
Nice one.
Excellent.
Good fun.
Better than question time.
Right. How do we stop the broadcast?
Like that.
Right. Done. Don't press anything else because I want to save it.
Excellent.
You are watching Graham Eason from Great Escape Cars.
I'm off now.
How do I turn it off?